Welcome to the Pearl Report. I'm Diana Lin. Land is scarce in Hong Kong, so the government strikes a deal with developers to provide open spaces in return for more building area. A win-win situation, except for the intended beneficiary, the public. Producer Renato Reyes visited a variety of privately owned public spaces and saw neither open nor for the public.
I want freedom. I want the freedom of Hong Kong. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Sunday morning at Civic Square outside the Elements Mall in Tsim Sha Tsui. We're here with Dick Chu, a social activist. The space is supposed to be opened for public use, but security guards think otherwise.
Is it a television program or what?
Yeah, it is a TV program.
Every time you come here, there are various kinds of interventions.
Can you bring us the management to come down?
Yeah, all right, all right.
Well, it's an open space. We can film anywhere here. Yeah.
Then a senior manager shows up.
Allow us to have a part of permit.
We haven't applied for a permit. What we have is the land lease for this public space.
It says this public open space shall be open to the public for all lawful purposes, freely and without payment of any nature. And we think that to have an interview here, to shoot a video here is not unlawful.
The guards back off.
Today we are allowed to shoot a video here, but tomorrow if I bring a rock band here and play rock music, so is it still allowed?
Civic Square is one of 31 public open spaces located in housing estates, malls, office towers, and other premises all over Hong Kong. They're privately owned but designed for public use. These public open spaces vary in size, design, and location, but most have one thing in common. Public access is restricted.
Tells the kind of micro-intervention prevalent in real estate management.
Take the International Finance Center in Central.
I want to know what do you video for which things?
Whatever you can see, we're going to film.
This rooftop garden, 4 stories up, is public space. It says here in the land lease.
At all times, permit all members of the public for all lawful purposes, including sitting out and recreational purposes, freely and without payment whatsoever to pass and repass on foot, along, to, from, by, through the 2 public open spaces.
Actually go here.
Yeah, no problem.
Right, so that I don't only want to go. Yes, you can take your movie.
But several security guards shadow us wherever we go. One lurks behind the steel column. He films us.
They do so first to give an impression to you that this is our area, this is a private area. Did you have experiences like that?
Last year when we do here practice, we're not allowed because of the music.
It's so strict.
Bonnie Asunción is a domestic helper.
Before, they don't allow us to have the modeling in here, dancing, no music allowed. They said it's noisy, that's go away. You're disturbing other people in here, so it's not allowed. But eating is all right. At the moment, they didn't ask us to go away.
Complaints lodged in the past 3 years have resulted in 12 developers being warned for violating their land leases. Most of the violations involve imposing restrictive hours on access to open space and leaving the area untidy. But critics note these are just symptoms of a much bigger problem.
It reflects our culture of putting the land revenue first over the people's interest. As the negotiation was directly only between the government and the developers, the only 2 interests that were counting were the interest of the government and the interest of developers. The government doesn't like to use land for open space. They like to sell land for land premiums.
The government categorically denies this.
We don't rely on developers, to provide open spaces for the people of Hong Kong, who provide the bulk of open spaces in Hong Kong.
They came up with this thing of asking developers to create the public open space within their sites. Well, in return for that, the developers then get an extra gross floor area.
Actually, the only public space dedicated for public use for which the owner or the developer was compensated in terms of GFA was Times Square. There is a lot of misconception circulating around, that for all the 31 public open spaces, the developer has been, compensated, there's been collusion between the government and the developers and whatnot, which is not true.
Young says the developers' land leases require them to provide open spaces as well as facilities for public use. In the case of Times Square, the shopping mall is on the site of a former tram depot in the heart of Causeway Bay.
The site was up for redevelopment.
Ian Brownlee was working for the planning department until early 1990s, when the government and Wharf Holdings were negotiating plans for an open space.
It's a private lot, and they had to make part of that lot available for public use. Why that we did that, it was basically there's nowhere in the whole of Causeway Bay where there's any public area at all. And the cost of resuming land or buying land by the government is so great that the option is to try to negotiate with the owners to give up what is really their most valuable floor space. They get a bonus to build some floor space higher up in the building.
We're looking at the Times Square blueprints filed with the Buildings Department.
So altogether, Times Square has dedicated 4,365 square meters for public use.
That includes the open and covered areas of the piazza as well as the streets around the complex. In return for them,
Times Square got more than 20,000 square meter gross floor area.
You don't think that's quite excessive?
It's really up to the public to judge, because this mechanism enables the government and the public to leverage on the private resources of private developers, so that an open space is made public for the enjoyment of all, which would otherwise not be made public at all, because that space is private land.
We don't think that's reasonable, since you can see Times Square got MTR exit. This specific public space has become a place to generate pedestrian flow for them to go up the shopping mall.
Such arrangements are enshrined in a deed of dedication. The deed between the government and Times Square also lets the developer stipulate who and what are allowed in the piazza. But the most controversial clause, now being disputed between the government and Wharf Holdings, is the right to lease the public space. Times Square has earned rental from the likes of Starbucks and product promotions from food, cosmetics to shoes.
Do they have the right to lease the piazza for commercial use?
No. We're contemplating legal action.
The government is demanding Times Square reveal how much it charges for renting out the piazza.
It seems that they're not going to give you this information. What are you going to do about it?
That's not true. They are responding, to our letters and messages, but I would not comment too much on that because we're contemplating some legal action.
Wharf Holdings is keeping mum because the issue may lead to a court case.
What is left out in the equation is the people.
These people, they claim they have been evicted simply for sitting, only to find out this is public space.
It's not reasonable.
Recently, guards at this piazza evicted university professor Keith Zhang for walking slowly.
I was walking in a speed that was not acceptable to them.
Now, Keith is back.
It's wrong to set any regulations on using public space.
Activists now take every chance to challenge the rules.
Artists and citizens creating a lot of very creative ways of reclaiming public space.
The Grand Millennium Plaza in Sheung Wan, a public space. The FM Theatre Group is known for